Bonsoir et bienvenue à la réunion publique du 29 janvier 2026. Good evening and welcome to our public meeting in regards to January 29, 2026. Good evening everyone, membres du conseil, council members. Ouverture de la réunion à 6h06. On passe à la deuxième item, l'adoption de l'agenda. Pour adopter l'agenda tel que présenté, be it resolved that council approve the agenda of January 29, 2026 public meeting as presented. Proposeur appuyeur. Madame Clément, appuyé de Monsieur Miner. All those in favor? Those against? Carried. Item number 3, disclosure pecuniary interest. Seeing none, s'en va à l'item numéro 4, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment Forage Fusion Drilling Limited under the file Z-04-2026 est présent avec nous via le Zoom. On a M. Marc Rivet de J.L. Richards et on a Eva Dohan Lavoie qui est avec nous. Bonsoir à vous deux. Et j'imagine que c'est M. Rivet qui va partir de la présentation? Ou
oui, bonsoir, M. le maire.
OK.
Du conseil, donc je vais faire un partage. Je partage de mon côté, Alison?
Oui, s'il vous plaît.
OK. Public Meeting Presentation. Donc, M. le maire, vous avez indiqué, c'est le dossier Z04-2025. Donc, c'est la réunion publique sur la loi sur l'aménagement du territoire. Quelques avis que je dois lire. This is a public meeting, which is a requirement under the Planning Act, and it's being held to provide an opportunity for the public to voice their comments and concerns with regards to the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Township of Champlain to the OLT, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Champlain before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. A person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Affected property is at 306 Front Road. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from commercial rural and rural to a commercial rural exception, most likely exception 2, in order to recognize drilling and resource support services as a permitted use. Drilling and resource support services would be defined as part of this amendment, would also permit open storage and shipping containers. The way we've approached this is the location of the open storage and shipping containers would be as per an approved site plan. So the proposed development is subject to the site plan control bylaw. Subsequent to the amending bylaw, the applicant would be submitting a site plan, and the location of the shipping containers and storage areas would be limited as per an approved site plan. The site plan would also require a 1.2 meter landscape buffer along the most easterly lot line. That's the lot line between the existing containers and the cemetery. And require a minimum of 17 parking spaces for the entire site. So it was chosen to be an easier approach to just identify the total parking spaces on the site plan rather than to identify for every use on the property. There's an existing residential use, there's an office, there's various storage facilities, outdoor storage containers. So the site plan has identified 17 parking spaces, and that would be incorporated into the amending bylaw. No changes are being proposed to the further south portion of this property, which is currently zoned restricted industrial ML. Those lands would be outside of the revised site plan approval as well. Property location, as you can see here, located off of Front Road. Quick analysis, provincial planning statement, to 2024. Planning authorities should support complete communities by accommodating a range and mix of land uses, including various uses as listed here. 2.51, again, looking at supporting and building upon the rural character, leveraging rural amenities and assets, promoting diversification of the economic base and employment opportunities. Again, this is in the general rural area, supporting the use of resources, So generally, it's an existing use and it can be deemed to conform with provincial planning statement. Again, the services would be appropriate, infrastructure in the area, diversifying the rural economy, promoting economic development. So just general provincial planning statement policies. UCPR OP. So the development is to be limited in scale, which is one of the objectives of preserving the identity and character of the rural area. So the property is within the rural policy area, is and will continue to be on individual private services. County OP also permits limited storage yards associated with trades, including contractors' yards, custom workshops. 6.92 looks at features to ensure the uses are compatible with the abutting areas. There's very limited residential uses in this area. The abutting use with the screening is actually a cemetery. The Forage Fusion is actually set quite a distance back from Front Road as well. Champlain zoning bylaw, as indicated, is partly zoned commercial rural, which is the portion that are subject to this application. Rear portion being ML with the holding, not subject to this application. The existing use can be interpreted to comply with generally with those within the CR zone. As indicated, the amending bylaw is proposing to add a use and add a definition for a term called drilling and resource support services. The purpose of the rezoning is to recognize the drilling and resource support services as a permitted use, to permit open storage and shipping containers limited to approved site plan areas. The current zoning bylaw restricts the amount and location of shipping containers. Therefore, a specific exception is required to permit not only the placement, but also the quantity of shipping containers which are used as secure storage facilities on this property. Require a 1.2 meter landscape buffer along the most easterly lot line. That's the lot line abutting the cemetery and the existing containers. The intent through the site plan is that area be landscaped with a type of hedge, which would screen the back portion of the storage containers or shipping containers from the cemetery along that lot line. Require a minimum of 17 parking spaces. This is just the zoning schedule or the zoning map that was part of the proposed amending bylaw. That shows the location of the CR and RU. Notification was conducted. Actually, the application was received August 19th. Was circulated for internal and external review through agencies in January of 2026. There was some site visits that occurred as part of the circulation in order to come up with a consensus on the uses on the property, the intent and the rationale for the uses on the property, as well as the approach to identify these in the amending bylaw. Notices were also sent to neighbors within 120 meters. To the best of my knowledge, no written comments have been provided to the department. Application was also not on the slide here, but was also circulated to internal agencies and groups. Site visit was also conducted between planning and the building department to visit the site. Which brought to some minor revisions to the site plan. Building permit applications will be required for dome structures and any other feature that triggers the building review process. So that'll all be conducted subsequent to an approved site plan. So the decision of on this matter will be considered at the next council meeting, which is scheduled for February 26th. There'll be a 20-day appeal period. Anybody in attendance or virtually who wishes to be notified of the decision of council must make written request to the town clerk, address listed on the screen. That's the presentation. Are there any questions?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Rivet.
Pas.
À ce moment-ci, je demanderai au conseil s'ils ont des questions concernant la présentation que vous venez de présenter. Council members, any question in regards to the presentation done by Mr. Rivet? Seeing none, at this time I ask the public. present if they're interested in asking any questions in regards to what was presented. Questions, commentaires? Bonsoir, monsieur. Votre nom? OK.
Benoît Serrurier, La Salle Engineering. We've received we're working with Concilio Planning on behalf of Fusion Drilling to get this zoning bylaw amendment done and then subsequently go through site plan control and obtain building permits. So this is a long process that will be ensuring that this property and this business is fully in line with all municipal requirements. We did receive a draft bylaw, and I provided some comments to Monsieur Rivet and staff. I just want to ensure. I think, in essence, the draft zoning bylaw that was received represented, in essence, the requirements of the site plan that was also submitted as part of our application. But I just wanted to ensure that the feedback and when perhaps further discussion with staff is warranted, that the zoning bylaw that we eventually hopefully adopted would fully represent the requirements of the site plan.
Monsieur Rivet?
Yeah. Oui, Monsieur le maire, donc on a reçu les commentaires de la Salle Engineering et Concilio, Monsieur à travers la Salle. Donc on va reviser ces commentaires-là. Puis le règlement, ce soir, c'est la réunion publique, donc il n'y a pas de considération du règlement par le conseil. Là. Donc la prochaine réunion, le règlement sera partagé en avance avec Concilio et Benoît et on va présenter le règlement à la prochaine réunion de conseil.
Vous êtes d'accord avec ça, M. Serrurier?
Non, c'est parfait. Merci.
OK, good. Merci beaucoup. Autre question? C'est none. Merci beaucoup, M. Rivet. On va passer à la prochaine. Ça, vous n'êtes pas trop loin, là. Je pense que tu en as une autre. Ah, he's done? Ah, OK. Bonne soirée, M. Rivet.
Bonjour.
On s'en va à l'item numéro 5. Propose the zoning bylaw amendment, Latham Investments Limited, in regards to file Z-07-2026. Madame Doane Lavoie, bonsoir. À votre tour de nous faire la présentation concernant cet item.
Oui, bonsoir. Donc, oui, je vais vous présenter le rapport Z07 2025. Donc, this public meeting is a requirement of the Planning Act and is being held to provide an opportunity for the public to voice their comments and concerns with regards to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Township of Champlain to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Champlain before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. A person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the application scope, so the property is at 126 Mill Street. The proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the retained land from residential 1 to residential 2 special exception zone 13, so R2 13, in order to permit a semi-detached dwelling and to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 7 meters. The proposed amendment is also to rezone the severed land from residential 1 to residential 1 special exception zone 8 in order to recognize an existing residential dwelling with a reduced front yard setback from 6 meters to 3.4 meters, a reduced rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 2.1 meters, and an increased encroachment of a veranda into the required front yard from 1 meters to 4.4 meters. And the proposed rezoning of the land is a condition of severance application B 065 2025. So this is just to show the property location. So the retained lot to be rezoned from R1 to R213 is in purple. And here in yellow, you have the severed lot to be rezoned from R1 to R18. So now going into the planning analysis, first is the provincial planning statement. So the PPS states that the settlement area shall be focus of growth and development, that planning authorities shall support general intensification and redevelopment to support the achievement of complete communities, including by planning for a range and mix of housing options and prioritizing planning and investment in the necessary infrastructure and public service facilities. It also states that planning authorities shall provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities to meet projected needs of current and future residents by permitting and facilitating all types of residential intensification. Concerning the UCPR official plan, it states that it shall be the policy of council that a portion of the county's future housing needs shall be provided through residential intensification, which may include infill developments and residential developments of vacant land or underutilized land in the urban policy areas and build-up areas. It also states that growth and development shall be directed to areas with existing or planned water and sewer infrastructure. And it states that within the urban policy area, planning authorities have to provide for a range of mixed and low, medium, high density housing types to accommodate appropriate, affordable, and market-based range mix of residential types, including single detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings units, row housing units, additional residential units, multi-unit housing, affordable housing, and housing for older persons. The Township of Champlain official plan, in this plan, for the urban areas of the Township of Champlain, the retained lot and the severed lot are designated as low-density residential, and it permits low-rise residential uses, including detached and semi-detached dwelling. Concerning the zoning bylaw of the township, the proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the retained land from R1 to R2 special exception zone 13, and to rezone the severed land from residential 1 to R1 special exception zone 8 to recognize the existing residential dwelling. I'll skip to the more precise analysis. So this is the image that was circulated with the notice, identifying again the retained land and severed lot to be rezoned. And here it's more, you can see the analysis. So this image shows the areas that are not conforming to the provision of the zoning bylaw. So again, in the retained lot on the left here, the rear yard setback is 7 meters instead of the permitted 7.5 meters. And in the severed lot, so this one on the right, the front yard setback is 3.4 meters instead of 6. The rear yard setback is 2.1 instead of the permitted 7.5. And the encroachment of the veranda is 4.5 meters instead of 1. So the application to amend the Champlain Township bylaw was received on October 29th, 2025. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment was circulated to internal and external agencies on December 15, 2025. Mail notices were sent to neighbors within 120 meters of the subject property in accordance with the Planning Act. In terms of next steps, the decision on this matter will be considered at the next council meeting on February 26, 2026, actually, not 2025, sorry. There will be a 20-day appeal period as prescribed by the Planning Act following the notice of the decision and the passing of the amending bylaw. So if you wish to be notified of the decision of the municipal council, you must make a written request addressed to the clerk of the township with this address. Thank
Merci
you.
beaucoup. Thank you very much for the presentation, Madame Doane Lavoie. At this time, I'd ask council if they have any questions in regards to the presentation just received. Aucune question? Same goes to the public. If there's any questions from the public, now's the time to ask whether you're in favor or against. No questions? Madame Doane Lavoie, merci beaucoup pour la présentation. Ça conclut notre réunion publique concernant les zonages ou bylaw amendments. Donc, merci beaucoup. On va passer à la prochaine item qui est l'ajournement. Donc, ça va conclure le public meeting du 29 janvier 2029. Ajournement, be it resolved that the public meeting of January 29, 2026 be adjourned. Proposeur appuyeur, Madame Bigelow, second by Monsieur Lalonde. All in favor? Against? Carried. Merci beaucoup. On va prendre 2 minutes de break, puis on va revenir avec la réunion publique qui va commencer à l'instant.